Hey gang, John Baccarelli here with your Lake St. Clair Fishing Report, brought to you by Sportsman's Direct. It is Wednesday, February 22nd, and yeah, I know I'm doing this on a Wednesday instead of a Thursday, but if you've looked outside, it's like, what else is there to do today other than do a fishing report? It's raining, sleeting, snowing, kind of freezing, kind of not freezing. It just stinks out there right now. So, you know, it is what it is. Weather forecast going forward is going to be like really cold for a couple of days after it gets like really warm tomorrow for a couple of hours, and then it's going to get really cold, and then we're going to go to like 39 degrees, and 39 degrees is just kind of crummy for everything unless you're a refrigerator, because that's basically what refrigerators operate. It's like 38, 39 degrees, but they say life begins at 40, right? So that's haha, it's like a refrigerator repairman joke, I guess. But anyways, so enough said about the weather. It stinks. It has really basically eliminated, I can't say all of our ice fishing opportunities, because there are still a couple of guys, and you probably know them, and I talk about them all the time, that are still sneaking around, I think, on sketchy ice up on that north end, some of those canals up there. This cold snap we got coming in is going to extend that a little bit more, and maybe open up a couple of more opportunities for those of us that are crazy. But other than that, ice fishing down here is pretty much done. Now, if you go to the north, they still have ice. If you go to Lake Simcoe, they still have ice and are actually making ice. Probably have the thickest ice right now that they've had all season. So, you know, there's still opportunities if you guys want to go ice fishing. And honestly, fishing over on Simcoe this last half of the season is always really exceptional. And with the forecast, if it stays, you know, around 30-ish down here like they're forecasting, we could actually have late ice on Simcoe, which would be kind of nutty, and up on the northern part of the state as well too. So, but not for us. So for us guys down here, you're really going to be breaking out the long rods, if not the boats, although I don't believe any of the ramps are in yet, and I will start pushing these guys locally to start to get ramps in, because once we get through this little cold snap we got coming in here, I think that's pretty much it for worries about anything icing back up. So, but for the most part, locally, most of the guys are perch fishing down here in this area. Let's see, Lake St. Clair Metro Park has been producing perch. So all along the Black River and into the basins there. Now it changes from day to day. One day they get, you know, lots of good fish, and the next day the guys that fish there real regular only get a few good fish, but they are getting some really nice fish, and quite a few fish like in that 9 to 10 to 11 inch range, which are fantastic, you know, eating size perch. Nothing giant there. Generally your biggest fish are going to come like down at the end of Harley, and that bite has been going on and off too. Now that one is pretty much depending on the wind direction, current flow coming out of the Clinton River, and water clarity. Down there you really want some cleaner water coming out of that Clinton River. Spillway action has definitely been picking up. More fish being caught in the spillway, at least up until this rain that we have now. You know that the spillway the volume is gonna pick up once this rain starts. That'll probably kill it there for a while, but once we get this quick freeze, it's gonna flash freeze all of that water. It's gonna cut that runoff down, and she should clean up pretty quick. And what's gonna happen is this fresh flow is gonna bring in a lot more fish. So expect that spillway fishing to actually even pick up beyond what it's been for the last week or so, and that's a good thing for everybody. Other places that you can fish, that end of by the Selfridge boat launch down there, that haven't had a lot of good reports from it, but that one is really due to bust loose at any time. So that's one. I know they've been catching fish for the guys that have access to Selfridge that can get back in that marina back there. They were getting a lot of fish there, which also means that guys with boat access, or they can get into Mac and Rays, or out in front of Mac and Rays, or in by the corner by the barracks, those would all be great bets right now. And historically, if we were fishing late ice right now, we'd all be trying to get down into that corner by the barracks on the sketchy ice. And so there's no difference now if you got a boat. Get down in there on that corner without sketchy ice, and you should have a lot of perch action down there as well. Same thing goes for in tight to Geno's. There ought to be fish coming in there. That basin in front of the boat launch at Crocker, even though you can't launch at Crocker right now because it's not finished, if you can get in there with boat access, I would expect that to be really good right now as well. Same thing down there in the mile roads, down there by that 10-mile bay out in front of the Coast Guard station. There is that new pier now at Blossom Heath, although I haven't been down there to check it out. And I also don't know about, guard activity or whatnot if they're letting people in there. But if you can get in there and fish off of that pier, that ought to be a good one too. Same thing goes for 9 Mile. Out in front of 9 Mile historically, and in that bay by 9 Mile generally holds early perch, as does over in Ford's Cove as well. So these are all areas, all the different marinas, all these places that we normally fish late ice will have perch in them right now. It's just a matter of which one's going on what day. These fish move in schools, they move out in schools. You got to find those schools. When you find the schools, you have really fast action. So to help you out with that fast action at this time of the year, one of the things you should think about doing is fishing plastics. Now, I know a lot of you guys are fishing minnows. We saw a lot of minnows in there, and minnows work fantastic most of the time. But one of the things the plastics allow you to do, and when I'm talking about plastics, I'm talking about fishing with a jig head and a panfish plastic, or some of those little candy fry that we sell underneath a float, or even just casting them and retrieving them, or fishing them with a jig down on the bottom and then a drop shot hook up on top, or a sinker on the bottom and a couple of drop shot hooks up there. And the reason why those plastics can be a huge advantage is because you can really chuck those things, okay? So if those fish are out farther from shore, or you're trying to cover water like in Black Creek and you're searching for fish, okay? If you fish those plastics first, cast them, make long casts, work them back to you, find the fish, get as close as you can on the shoreline to them, and then you can throw your minnows at them, and then you can really capitalize on them. So you can take your really aggressive fish first with those plastics, and then tone it back to fishing with minnows, or even spikes or waxworms if the bite is really slow. So that's another good thing to carry with you this time of the year, just like ice fishing. I mean, you just keep them in your pocket, and when you need them, you have them. So, but that's what I like about plastics especially. And guys will say, well, you can cast minnows. Yeah, you can. But a lot of times when you're casting those minnows out there, you guys know what happens. The sinker hits the water, it goes down through, and your minnow gets ripped off, and you don't even know it. And you're sitting there fishing, and you don't even realize that your minnow got ripped off just by the entry going into the water out there. With plastics, the plastics aren't going to get ripped off going into the water, okay? So you know you've got a bait on there. You can cover that water. You can work it back. So that's why I like using plastics, especially from casting from shore. And you can get these bombing casts out there, and you can just reach out and touch those fish. Another thing I want to bring up, for all you guys that were fishing at Metro off of the beach, right? You know how close those fish were in at the end, right? They were underneath the ice. They were in 1, 2, 3 feet of water. In some cases, even with as low as the water was, we were in there like casting distance from shore catching fish, right? Ding, 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 casting distance from shore. Almost nobody fishes from shore down there along the beach, especially down when you get down by the basketball courts, from the Willow all the way down to the point. If the water clarity is good, those same fish that were there underneath the ice are going to be there now. They might not be as concentrated because the ice isn't focusing everything or really concentrating the fish, but they're going to be there because the reason why they're really there is not just for feeding, but that corner, especially down there along the point, gets some weed growth, and even out in front of the beach there. And it's a spawning area from there all the way down into Geno's. So, and then all the way into that corner over there in front of that marsh area, there's weeds that come up there. That's an early spawning area for these fish. So that's one of the reasons why they're there. So don't forget to fish that area too down there. And you can use the same techniques. You can get out there, you can reach out there and touch those fish, throw in those plastics, especially like on a drop shot rig. So I guess that's all I'm going to say about the perch right now. We're going to change course a little bit just because I remembered it and I don't want to forget it. But up on that St. Clair River, and did I even mention, I forget something, did I even mention the water temperature? I don't think I did. I think I jumped right into this, but this is kind of an important thing to mention here. So the water temperature at Belle Isle, when I checked today, was like 35-ish, 36-ish. It's going to go down a couple of degrees in the next couple of days. But the water temperature, I was just talking to one of my friends at the shop that was up fishing the St. Clair River up by Port Huron by the Black. And I asked him, I said, well, what was that water temperature up there? I mean, I was gonna guess that it was gonna be like 34, maybe 35. He said he had like 32.5 to 33 degrees. So, which is still crazy cold, okay? So that water coming out of Lake Huron is really, really cold. And so the water coming down into Lake St. Clair is going to be really, really cold. It's really not gonna climb up much past this 35, 36 for quite a while. And the other reason why I bring this up is because when the water is cold up there this time of the year and the guys can get their boats in the water, especially out in front of the Black, that Black actually acts as like a warm water discharge right now because that water generally is going to be warmer coming out, and it attracts a lot of fish. And at this time of the year, it's not just walleye, it's also steelhead, salmon, lake trout, even some whitefish. Occasionally even a burbot, I guess they'll get up there. So I'm bringing that up because that started, okay? So, and it's actually been going for a little while. The silverfish are in up there. I don't know if they're in as heavy as they're going to be. I think that's still gonna bump up a little bit more as the water comes up a little bit in temp, but they are getting fish up there. So if that's your thing, it's time to go up there as well. I haven't heard much about the Detroit River. I don't think there's a lot of guys, there's not a lot of great access right now to get in, but that's going to happen, especially on the next warm-up down here. The Detroit River is going to pick up. I'm sure guys are going to get out and start trolling some cranks here. I know some guys stopped for a while there. They trolled most of the winter, but that's going to get picking back up out there as well. A little bit of shore fishing advice. With the water as cold as it is, and we are going to have an extended period here of cold water and probably no ice, okay? I mean, that's the reality of it. Now, one of the things you're going to want to consider when you're shore fishing is little details about the warmest water that you can find in the area. And when I mean in the area, I mean if you're in a canal, or if you're in the basin at Metro, or if you're out in the boat and you've got structure, and I'm talking structure like a bay, or a structure like the canal is like mini structure, right? It's its own little body of water. If you were on an inland lake, one side of the lake versus the other. Now, not only are you looking for newly emergent weeds, but one of the other things as far as a food and just a comfort scenario for these fish is the water temperature, right? So with the sun angle and everything, and wind directions, you're going to want to try to, and you're going to have most fish activity in a lot of cases in those parts of the canal that might only be a degree, half a degree, 2 degrees warmer than the other parts of the canal. Whereas in the summertime, the fish might like to hang in the shade. This time of the year, the fish might actually like to hang in the sun. And if the water's dirty and the sun is out, the fish might like to hang up really close to the surface in the sunshine, hiding in that dirty water. Okay, so if you've got a little bit of a breeze, that warmer surface water will get blown over to one side of the canal. And sometimes that can make all the difference in the world because you're just going to get a little bit more active fish. You're probably going to get some food blown over to that side. You're going to get some, maybe if you're fishing like a bay or something, maybe there's a little greater concentration of algae over on that side, which means the minnows are going to be over there. This is the time of the year that the bait fish, when the water is cold, really don't have a lot of food. And once it starts to warm up, when you start to get some algae production, then they've got some, like aquatic weed growth, and you've got just more activity, then they've got food. So finding a little bit warmer water even for the bait fish is a big deal this time of the year. So try to pay attention to those little details like water clarity, which way the wind is blowing, sun angle, where's it beating down, what seawall is it beating down on. You're going to find even on pilings, like you've seen how the pilings just kind of melt away the ice around them. Well, that water is just a little bit warmer around those pilings, and these fish are really attracted to just slightly warmer water at this time of the year. One other thing I wanted to bring up, this is kind of like really off subject, and it kind of goes back to ice fishing, but right now there is the 2023 World Ice Fishing Championship going on in Tartu, Estonia, and Michigan is well represented in that event. And one of the guys over there, and I think he's acting more like as a coach or a spotter, is my old friend Myron Gilbert. So I wanted to say hi to Myron. I wanted to wish the best of luck to Team USA. The World Championship ice fishing is very different from what you guys are used to here, unless you've competed in maybe one of the events to qualify for Team USA. It's very, very, very different. They're fishing for generally fish like we would think of as bait fish. They usually, well, not usually, but one of the key techniques they use is they chum down there with maggots. I mean, like our 1,000-count maggots that we buy for ice fishing, they'll burn through those in a matter of no time. And they've got special equipment they use to drop that, to like balls of that bait down there. Same thing with bloodworms. You know, we talk about bloodworm colored baits and we use artificial bloodworms, but they use like bloodworms in volume and actually use them as bait. They're not allowed to use any electronics. They can't use power augers. It is so different. If you get a chance, check them out on Facebook. I know Team USA for World Ice Fishing Championship has got a page out there. You can check them out. You can follow them. I believe the competition is going to start this weekend. It's very different, and hats off to those guys that are competing in it, because my friends over the years have competed over there in it, and it's quite the experience for the guys that are over there experiencing ice fishing in a different part of the world. So one other thing I just posted on Facebook is March 1st, we are having a walleye seminar at our store by Metro Beach. And Isaac Hanna's going to be there, and he's going to be talking about jigging the Detroit River for walleyes, or I guess he's going to be talking about jigging for walleye, not necessarily all about the Detroit River, but definitely about our local waters. The Detroit River and the St. Clair River would be applicable to what he's going to talk about. So if you have a chance, you can check out the post on our Facebook page. It's got the details. But it's free. It's a free seminar. We haven't done a seminar in a long time because everybody's all on YouTube. But going to a seminar is quite a bit different than just watching a video, right? Because it's interactive. I mean, and that's the best part about a seminar is usually the Q&A portion of it, because you just never know where that seminar or where the question's going to lead you. And there's always a lot to learn, especially when you get into the Q&A portions of a seminar. So if you get a chance, check out the post on our Facebook page. Come on out and visit us. And until then, we'll probably see you in the shop. Hey, if you like this video content and you want to get updated as soon as the next video is out there, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon, and you'll get notified as soon as the next video is up.